Hello and welcome to Fit Enough. This is episode 11 and my name's Matt.
And I'm Sai, and in this podcast we make strength training simple.
Welcome back to the podcast. It feels like it's been so long since we did one.
I think it's only been 2 weeks.
Less than, because we did the last one in the middle of the week, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because someone wasn't up for it on the weekend.
Why wasn't I up for it?
I think we were just doing other things, but
There was a lot going on.
we pushed it back. Yeah, what has been going on? Because the last 2 weeks has probably been the most eventful in our lives.
It has been incredibly exciting. Yeah. I think our stock came before, like more than 2 weeks ago now.
Did it? The last one we filmed, maybe the boxes.
Maybe just about actually. Maybe it was Monday. Less than 2 weeks ago, Monday. Yeah. So that was like a huge moment of just getting the delivery and seeing our physical products like en masse.
Oh, yeah, I think we did speak about this.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's still a highlight.
Yeah, we still got them. Yeah, they're all in the back room. We've been dishing them out. Yeah, it's felt really cool to be giving people our actual product. I think that's the main thing that's happened in the last 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, it's meant we can like actually go to gyms and physios and studios and be like, hey, this is what we do. Try this out. Let us know what you think. And that's been, I think, so helpful for them to be like, oh yeah, like, you know, we'll give you time because we can see you've got something that you clearly think is good enough to give us a test with. And
yeah, it was always a much bigger ask when we didn't have the product. To just, you're basically asking people to like,
trust you.
Yeah, trust you and invest in you as a person, which a lot of people did, obviously. But it just makes it easier to have the product and be like, there you go, try it out. So yeah, very exciting. And now we've got all sorts of plans going on. We've got the launch event coming up. We have actually like going round to gyms who we may have emailed but haven't directly spoken to yet. So I guess you can still count that as cold, really. And then we're thinking potentially Strong Band on tour, where we would throw caution to the wind yet again and basically not...
What does that mean?
Not
throw caution to the wind?
It's a saying.
What does it mean?
Or just say, be damned with it and take the risk. And we would basically move out of this place that we're renting and we'd be doing the podcast on the road. Move out of this place and just start kind of jumping around Australia, New Zealand and Singapore, possibly other areas in Asia, other countries I think they're called, regions. And it's just like door to door, but across the globe.
I think this is because we really enjoyed it on last Tuesday. Just the first time we had our stock and we're like just going around and like it was just so nice to speak to people and people were like more willing to like, well, I don't know, even the first time they were more willing to chat to us, but we just had like really helpful conversations. And people were really excited, like, yes, like, I can't wait to use this, like, can't wait to give it to this trainer, I can't wait to, like, test it out with these clients. So it just felt like we were actually meeting our potential customers and it just felt like such a good use of our time and we enjoyed it.
No, I think the meeting new people aspect of it is going to be the most life-changing thing. Because you are asking for people to trust you and invest in you, and you are like building loads and loads of relationships. But what's become clear to us is that like, everybody wants to help everybody out. Ultimately, there'll be some people who are like, I don't have time, or that's not for me, which is also fine, and that's kind of like a relationship in itself. I can already feel the effects of just like meeting loads of new people over the last couple of months and just having very like genuine connections. Yeah, it feels cool. Into the mic, please.
Sorry, I have nowhere to put it. I've got this turtleneck on, so I'm going freehand.
Right, episode 11, we wanted to talk about motivation because I think this is one of the biggest things that comes up when people are either just starting out with strength training in particular, or they've gone through a long phase of not quite knowing what to do, not knowing what to look out for, and maybe what they feel like they should be doing. And motivation starts to come into play because it's spoken about a hell of a lot. It's one of those buzzwords that doesn't seem to be going away in the health and fitness space. And there are good sides and there are bad sides to it, aren't there? And I think we kind of want to talk about what you could do when you feel like you've lost motivation. Like, what does that other side look like where you're a certain amount of time into a new program or just a new headspace of being like, right, I need to get into strength training or physical activity. You have that kind of honeymoon phase, and then all of a sudden reality hits and it becomes much more difficult to stick to this new routine that you've kind of committed to. So we want to try and help out by painting a picture of what this looks like. I guess normalizing it, that's going to be a big thing, and trying to give you some tips to help you kind of navigate it and come out on the other side.
Yeah, and I think in like now it's becoming very like popular with coaches to be like, it's not that you don't need motivation, you just need discipline. And to an extent that's true, but also motivation is a real thing. Like it's what drives us, and they both feed each other, motivation and discipline. And we want to break it down for some really practical tips on how you get that discipline and how you get that motivation, and understand, why it's happening to you and how to overcome it.
Yeah. So the best place to start, I think, is why we lose motivation. And I kind of touched on it then, but it's kind of this idea that after a certain amount of time, you will be faced with the realities of trying to fit everything into your schedule. And what you've effectively done, if you've just started out with strength training, is you've just put one more commitment into the pot. And you know it's a big commitment, but you maybe have habits in other aspects of your life, other areas of your life, that have kind of become like default or autopilot. And so it's very hard to then bring another habit in on top of that and make sure you're being as consistent as possible with it. So life happens. We're stressed with work or relationships or whatever it may be. Sleep goes down the pan. We know about that. Hormones as well. So any kind of bodily changes that you're going through, and also changes in routine, whether that's work related or indeed bringing this new commitment into your life. Those things are really going to impact your motivation to kind of carry on with your new routine.
And then also just like major life changes of like if you like have a baby, if you have a new job, like they're genuine huge barriers, which will, well, not barriers, but barriers towards sticking to your new routine. But it's then a question of like, how do you then fit in the strength training or the exercise that you've sort of committed to yourself in and around that massive new change? Yeah.
And I think we all know on some level that it should be a priority, like taking care of our health in one way or another should be a priority. But when it's competing with other priorities, it's maybe not framed in our kind of thought process in the right way. And we can come onto that in a second. But I think sometimes people are made to feel bad that they're not putting their health like at the forefront of their thinking throughout the day. But this is a reality. This is what you have to wrestle with for a while. It's a challenge to then kind of figure it out. And losing motivation doesn't mean you've failed. This is another thing I see with clients where they get really down on themselves because they have had that 2-week period of flying and getting all of their workouts done, and then something happens and it's, you know, it feels like it's very all or nothing. But if we're able to kind of like normalize this in our heads, then that can be a big hurdle that you've overcome before any kind of practical changes have even happened.
Yeah, completely agree. And this might be harsh, but I think some people want to like maintain those high expectations that they have of themselves regardless of what life throws at them. And that's not realistic. That becomes really poor organization. Like your high expectations become just impractical, and that's poor organization. And you need to, if you want to like try and keep it in, sometimes you do need to bring those expectations down because you just physically cannot do what you want to do. But yeah, let's come on to that.
In fact, one thing on that, I'll come back to it. And then a really important point is you as a human, your nervous system, how we operate, you're not designed to be in go mode the whole time. Like if you operated at 100% in every aspect of your life, 24/7, you're gonna hit burnout, you're gonna be overwhelmed. And that is when we usually see that kind of all or nothing thinking come into play. It's kind of like, you know, if you just push everything all at once, it then becomes very difficult, as you say, to maintain those high standards that you set for yourself. And so again, there's the mental aspect of it. There's also kind of like recognizing what you're actually capable of. And there's no shame in saying, I'm not capable of pushing everything to the limit 24/7.
And what your priority is. Like your priority when you have a new baby is going to be your new baby.
Yeah.
And like you just can't do an hour of exercise every single day that you might have been able to do before. And that's completely legitimate. Like it's going to change as your life changes.
And I think that's a good point, is that we almost like don't give our mind or our body even credit for how smart it is in terms of that prioritization, I guess like model that we have. Like you can trust yourself that you're prioritizing the right things. Even if it's work related, like you're prioritizing that for a reason. It's just maybe turning the dial down a little bit on those prioritizations. So it's not necessarily like I've put everything into work and this is wrong and I need to reprioritize. It's recognizing that work is still very much important. Like we all need to work. That's a huge aspect of our lives. But then it's just about making sure the rest of your list is factored in. So kind of like trusting yourself, knowing that your body and your mind are smart enough to make those priorities, and then just fine tuning it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it's not to say like, oh, if work's really busy and then therefore I'm going to be having a whole pack of Marilands to get it through and never do any exercise again. That's not what you're sort of listening to, even though your body might want that, but it's like the signal of this is what's going on in my life, and I need to listen to that and think back to like what it is that I really care about in my priority list, and how do I then shift that, rather than, I think the other side of it is just like listening to your body too much and your brain too much, where it like just wants to take the easiest path, which we need to like catch as well. But this is all information that we're getting that we can use to our benefit, rather than to completely ignore or to just completely run with blindly.
Yeah, yeah, it's like if we take anything to an extreme, one way or another, by definition, there's no balance. It's like you say, taking the information and kind of deciphering it as to how it's going to benefit you the most. So 4 different types of motivation dips that we can look out for, and we've kind of touched on a few already. There's going to be overwhelm, where if you take training as an example, this is going to be like, I've got no idea where to start. There's so much information out there. Why can no one just tell me like specifically what to do with strength training, which is where we come along. There's also burnout, where you've done too much of, it doesn't even have to be related, but if you've like worked yourself to the bone and then said to yourself, I need to strength train in the evening after work, that's like an acute level of burnout where you've had hundreds of different decisions made throughout the day, and then you get to your workout at the end of the day and your brain just can't face it. But then we also have the kind of chronic side of burnout, where if you have just been pushing yourself, it then becomes very difficult to maintain that motivation to do something that isn't immediately gratifying or doesn't give you that kind of like instant reward that to some extent strength training doesn't. It's much more of a long-term game. And then we've got perfection paralysis, which, man, I've danced with perfection paralysis a good few times. And this is the idea that if you can't do it properly, I won't do it at all. So that all or nothing principle. And then lastly, there's disconnect. And this is where we start to look at why we're doing things based on our values rather than any kind of instant reward that comes from it. So the disconnect can be you forgot why you're doing something and why it matters to you. And as a result of which the motivation to do that thing just falls off a cliff because you're not connected to that thing anymore in any way.
Just reminded me, I don't know why I was thinking of Hamilton, but one of the lines in the musical Hamilton.
Oh, tell me.
So if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything.
It
it probably comes from someone else as well, but like, yeah, when you sort of forget what you stand for and what your values are, it can be much deeper than I want to strength train for my health, even though that is pretty deep.
Yeah.
You can then easily just fall off the bandwagon when other things in life come and grab your attention or just like demand your attention. So then it's easy to then, not do the thing that you know you really want to do when you're disconnected from that.
Yeah.
And they're all connected together as well. Like it's not just there's one type of motivation that you're gonna type of motivation dip that's gonna happen in life. Like they all sort of compound and they're all connected as well.
Yeah, 100%. And that almost helps you tackle it because you can look at it as like one beast that you're up against rather than all of these different things that you have to try and tackle, because that in itself can then become overwhelming in a way. So when we're talking about motivation, obviously the ideal scenario is like one of these Instagram posts where they say you've just got to be motivated to do something and a switch flicks in your mind and you're like, oh yeah, now I'm this motivated person, and you take no days off, you work towards your goal, achieve that goal, everything's sunshine and rainbows after that. In reality, that is never going to be the case unless you've got a lifestyle set up for like really prioritizing gym and strength training, which some people do. We're always going to have to be fitting our activity in and around other things. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not a priority. It just means we need to be a bit smarter about how we use motivation and how we plant these little bits of activity into our life. You going to say something?
Did you hear my breath of let me come in?
I saw you flinch.
Just getting back on your point of like the influencers and people that you'll see online preaching this all or nothing, go hard, go home, no days off. Like they're not doing it. Like 99% of those people preaching it are not doing that because it's not sustainable. Like it's a highlight reel. Some people will, but they're going to be the elite athletes that have a team behind them, and very minority of people, normal people, can achieve that. And that is to the sacrifice of so many other things. So they're, if they're able to keep that, whatever, training twice a week, doing, prepping all of their meals and this, they're probably not seeing their family and friends that much. They're having to sacrifice other parts that are actually really important to our overall health. So yeah, just want to say, like, it's not realistic, and the people who are telling you that it is, that you just need to work hard enough, they're probably not doing it either.
Yeah, because we know for a fact, based on the evidence, particularly when it comes to strength training, but I think this could be applied across so many different domains, less is definitely more. When we're talking about physical health and physical activity, there's definitely something to be said for like practice and getting reps in, but when we're doing something that really stresses the body needs the recovery more than it needs the signal you're giving it to adapt. So if we're not resting and recovering, we're not going to see that adaptation happen. We're not going to see your physical health improve to the standard that you want. And even with going back to what you said about athletes, I reckon athletes are some of the most unmotivated people in comparison to like almost like the everyday athlete. The everyday athlete is chasing that thing. The athlete will have some sort of underlying, like, intrinsic motivation, and we can come onto this in a second, that really like anchors onto their values. They're very connected to this value that they have and this goal that they have of achieving whatever level it is in their sport. But the day-to-day motivation to train will not necessarily be there. But they will have a team behind them that kicks them out of bed, feeds them, and sends them out on the track or the pitch, for example. And that is their autopilot, to just say, I'm not motivated, maybe I feel like shit, I don't want to do this, but everything, the red carpet is laid out for them, so all they have to do is step forward.
Yeah.
The everyday is so much more difficult, isn't it? No one's laying out the red carpet for you. In fact, the opposite.
I completely agree with that, but I'm just thinking, like, gosh, athletes are so lazy. Don't do anything for themselves. Joking.
It goes back to the diet type of thing of people like, you need to eat like an athlete, and then you look at what athletes eat, and it's like, oh, don't eat like that. Like the binge and restrict cycle that fighters go through, or the amount of like crazy, what would usually be labeled as bad food that athletes eat just to get the calories in. Like it's a completely different domain. So then if we start to try and apply those templates to our lives, that can get a little bit sticky. So the first real world solution for these motivation dips is to shrink the task. And when I first meet a lot of clients, I will see this pattern where people who quite clearly feel as though they're not where they want to be physically will almost try to maybe unconsciously, subconsciously defend themselves. And what I get a lot is people saying, I'm the type of person where when I've got a plan, or as soon as you tell me what to do, I will do it, no questions asked. Like, as soon as I've got a plan, I'm fixed. Nothing's going to change that. 2 weeks in, they're off the plan. You haven't heard from them, and we're reaching that point again where they're like, okay, now all I need is a plan, and I'll get back on it, and the cycle repeats itself. As Sai said previously, you're setting your standards so high in that instance. You're saying to yourself, you have no room for error, no room for failure. The inevitable is going to happen. Life is going to punch you in the stomach. And so the easiest thing to do there is just to lower the bar, shrink the task, and do what you can that's really, really realistic for you so that you're getting wins throughout the week rather than this like tightrope walk of if I make one slip up, everything's gone. So 10 minutes of movement in comparison to no workout at all is 10 minutes better.
Yeah, and this isn't about having low expectations. Like, we're not saying lower your bar because there's no point in trying really hard and trying to, do lots of exercise. Like, we're saying you need to be realistic. Like, your bar is not really high because you've got really high expectations, but it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? You're like, it's delusionally high. You cannot do that. So when it's lowering the bar, it's just making it practical, and so that you can actually do it. So it's actually keeping your expectations high and making it manageable, so you actually get it done.
We have this mechanism in our brain where if we don't set parameters and we start thinking of the ideal scenario, we're kind of naturally wired to progress in a way to try and achieve the next goal that we set for ourselves or that's intrinsically there. So if we don't set those like real world parameters, our mind gets carried away, and all of a sudden the ideal person we've created in our head is just, it's an absolute fantasy.
Yeah.
And so all we're saying is keep that kind of outlook on drive and achieving goals and just generally keeping yourself fit, but just bring in a couple of safety bars that allow you to manage your expectations. Right?
Right.
Number 2, pick an anchor. So this is about habit stacking and scheduling, which I'm a big fan of. Not sure about yourself.
Bloody love it.
Okay. And so we spoke earlier about there will be things in your life already that are default or autopilot, or that you've made really good habits around. Like maybe it was difficult initially, but now you can see how they're a part of your life. And it can be something as simple as brushing your teeth, or it can be like if you've managed to tell yourself, okay, every other day or every weekend, I'm going to sit down with a newspaper and read about what's going on in the world.
We've not been able to do that yet.
Not been doing that. Quick search on BBC. Use these habits that you've created, or things that are kind of fixed in your schedule, to then anchor on these new habits. And therefore we're almost like we're eliminating the workload that we're putting on motivation or discipline, and we're just kind of setting another task that is so much less loaded than the initial, I know I need to work out at this point. It's going to be like, I know that before I brush my teeth, I need to move my body for 5 minutes. And therefore you've kind of used it as almost like just a gateway into your next task, your next habit.
Yeah, and it's all about removing those additional decisions that you need to make throughout the day, because okay, whether it's as soon as I brush my teeth, I'm gonna do a 10-minute workout, or as soon as I clock off work on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, I'm going to the gym, or I'm laying out my yoga mat as soon as I get home to do that workout. You're removing that extra barrier, even if that barrier is just like making that decision, or finding some time in your diary every day to like do something. It's there. You're like on autopilot to finish one thing, go into the other thing, without sort of bargaining with yourself. Like, do I have time? Where should I do it? Like Matt said, there's so many decisions you have to make in a day where you're going to end up fatigued. And so just making it as easy as possible for yourself to do it will just increase your chances of doing it, because you'll like end up being more on like autopilot. Like you go from one thing to the other and you get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what helps with that, so we're saying like, practically speaking, let's make it as easy as possible. And then from the more like, I guess, theoretical or conceptual side of things, we want to think about why we're actually making this a habit. Because I think people will often hit this hurdle when they start to plan things out of, okay, then I'm going to work out at this time and good, I've anchored it on, it's only 10 minutes, it can fit into my life. But then if we're approaching something without that why backing it up, without that kind of like evidence almost to demonstrate to yourself why you've included it in your schedule, then you may well get to that point, and even though it's on autopilot, you might be rolling out your mat and kind of be like, why am I doing this again? It's not adding to my life. I'm not gonna feel amazing afterwards. And you kind of, it gets lost in the daily tasks that you already have. So really understanding why you are putting your health first, like specific reasons, I think really help.
And journaling, like we both journal, and it's so helpful. This, even like starting this business with Strongband, and like sometimes I do need to like revisit it myself, even though I'm so passionate and so excited by it, the everyday like exhaustion of it can just beat you down.
Yeah.
So when you revisit your why and like practically do it, it's not just like, if you can write it down, and if you can write it down like, weekly, that's going to just really enforce that in your brain. It's not some wishy-washy thing that it's like, need to find my like purpose and my why. It's like it's a psychological like sticking point and an anchor that is so powerful to just push you in the right direction.
Yeah, like if we go back to the athlete example, what they have clearly set out in their mind is that at all costs, for most elite athletes, they're going to make it to that level because they've intrinsically like told themselves at a certain point, this is what I want for my life, this is the direction I want to go in, and therefore everything is drawn back to that reasoning, to that thing that they've told themselves. And so in those moments where they don't feel like working out, they don't feel like getting up, they're nervous before a game, for example, they will be habitually they will have habitually like programmed themselves in a way to just revert back to type. And if there's nervousness, if there's complacency, they almost like short circuit back to, oh no, I'm doing this because I want to become an elite athlete and I'm going to do it at all costs. It's that return back to home base that can really kind of send you through a consistent routine. There's something else I wanted to say on that why as well. What I also find really useful is almost like not thinking about any specific goals to do with health and fitness, and just think about other aspects of your life. So whether it's like you want to be a good parent, you want to excel at work, you want to chase that promotion, you want to create your own thing. All of these different things will require you to take care of your health and fitness. So if we're looking at other areas of your life, you can really clearly see those whys already. Like you will have that in place for the most part. Kind of like anchor your health and fitness onto those and say, if I really want to chase these dreams and ambitions I have, if I want to be the best version of myself in my family life, in my social life, etc., I know for a fact the healthier I am, the fitter I am, the more I take care of myself, the more I can excel in those areas. And then that almost becomes like a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to take care of myself if I want to be a good dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely. Yeah, because it's so easy to, like, the most common thing is like things are really busy at work. You end up opening your laptop at 7:30 and you don't finish until 10 p.m. And you can't do that every single day because you're sacrificing your health. And then when you're not making time for exercise, when you're not making time for strength training, when you're not making time to eat healthy, you're going to be shitter at your job. And I think it feels like you're being productive at the time, but it's not in the long term. There might be a few days where you need to do it, but yeah, you definitely need to catch yourself and revisit that why, because yeah, like Matt said, it's not just about you. Like, it's not just about you. I think it can feel really selfish for people to be like, I'm going to step away from this thing because I need to do this for my team. You know, I need to do this for my boss. I need to do this for my kids, my partner. And it feels like you're being really productive and achieving that specific goal, but by not looking after yourself, you're not going to be there for them. So it's actually incredibly selfless to look after your physical and mental health, and it benefits everybody involved in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Like, think about you at 50% of how you want to be, and then ask yourself, like, would I rather be hanging out with that person, or would I rather be hanging out with me at 100%? I think the answer is always going to be 100%.
We're always nicer. We're always nicer when we've done some exercise.
Something that can be really useful for you guys to do is ask yourself, what would fit enough look like right now? So we've spoken a lot about like bigger picture, intrinsic values, these more like global ideas of what health looks like for you. But what we can also do is kind of drill down into the moment and say to ourselves, okay, here is the reality. Here is where I'm at. I know I have 10 or 15 minutes at 3 p.m. before I go into my next meeting. In this instance, what would fit enough look like for me? Would it be using those 15 minutes to stretch? Could you fit a quick strength workout into that? The answer is yes. Do you actually need that 15 minutes to just go for a walk and clear your head? You have the ability and the control to very much dictate how these things fit into your life. And so just by kind of catching yourself in those moments and asking yourself a question, which might seem a little bit weird at the start, but I think one of the best things I started to do for myself is started to ask myself questions as to like why I was doing things, why I was feeling certain ways, and kind of challenging myself in that aspect. If you have those opportunities to ask yourself what fit enough would look like in that moment or for that day, you're going to give yourself some really good answers that will really build that consistency.
No notes.
No notes, good. Last one, phone a friend. I have found this so useful in the past. Best example is like sitting on the sofa, last thing I want to do is move around. I go out, and even now I just voice note friends or listen to voice notes that friends have sent me, and it puts me in a completely different headspace. I think just being able to have a conversation, taking yourself out of that moment of whatever you were feeling, whatever was kind of holding you back in a way, can give you a new perspective that you need to tap back into your why, or tap back into your more logical thinking of what you could do right now to benefit your health and fitness. Your friends are there for a reason, so use them.
Yeah, and it's that whole like, you end up being, when things are feeling overwhelming, you're losing motivation in, you know, health and fitness side of your life, but it could be other sides of your life as well. Like, it's just all in your head, and as soon as you come out and you speak to your friend, you speak to your family, even just stopping and having a conversation with a stranger, you suddenly realize the world is much bigger than just what's going on in your head, and it's just a breath of fresh air, and that human connection, I think, is so important to just put everything in perspective again and energize us.
Yeah. So I think those are our 5 tips. Shrink the task, pick your anchor, revisit your why, ask yourself what fit enough would look like right now, and phone a friend, family member, or somebody that is going to make you smile, take you out of that headspace, and allow you to tap back into why you started your health and fitness journey in the first place. For me, I think I've been quite lucky in terms of motivation, in that when I was younger and playing football, the motivation I needed was to the thing that motivated me was just the fact that I got to play football. Like that was really enjoyable for me. It was my passion. And then that fortunately kind of like rolled into taking care of my health and fitness when I was older, in that I know I'm a better version of myself when I am active. I like setting myself kind of like physical and kind of mental goals and challenges to work towards. And so I've kind of never had to use motivation, but then also, or not to the extent that that some people need it, but I've seen how it can be a really positive thing to use for clients, but also how it can kind of hold us back from consistency in a way because of the over-reliance on it. So I think while motivation can be great, I would kind of recommend just trying to take it out of the picture temporarily and just focus on like building habits, understanding where you're coming from as to why you're building these habits, and just taking things slow in terms of building up that new aspect of your life.
As you know, Matt, I have a different relationship with motivation. I definitely have motivation in waves, and there'll be times where, months where I'm like feeling super disciplined and super motivated, and I just do it and I don't even think about it. And then months where I have to force myself, like I'm like on this, I like eat into my workout for, I've sort of scheduled an hour. I've scheduled an hour, and there I'm snacking on the sofa for 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay, let me just do it. And I do it. And I think doing that sort of 80%, sometimes 60%, sometimes even just like 40% of what I've scheduled is good enough at that point. And it's just always turning up and changing the task if you need to. Now, I'm not saying, I know there's more that I can do as well to be more to be more disciplined, and one of them is having a good program, which I sometimes write for myself, I sometimes don't, and I do notice when I don't have a good program, that's when I'm like more likely to like talk myself out of things. So I'm not saying I'm a golden light of a shine. What's the word? Like I'm a golden example of what you should be aiming for. But if you are like me, where just the thought of getting up from the sofa can feel just like too much, know that when you do it, you're not going to regret it. And the more you can just convince yourself and tell yourself and put all these things in place to give yourself that best chance of doing the thing, it's going to become easier and easier and easier. Now, I know, like before when I was a teenager, I'm going on for a long time, but when I was a teenager, I just like every single year, my New Year's resolution was to start exercise. And I could never get into a good routine until I started playing sport, because then it became more intrinsic. It was just fun. And then the strength training and the sort of training rather than just like playing sport came into it to support that. But before that, it felt so difficult to find that motivation. But as soon as you do stick to it for a while, find that thing that you love, find that sport, find that class, find that friend you can go with, everything will just become so much easier. That's it.
Yeah, there's always that messy middle, isn't there? And that's when a lot of people think like either it's not for them, or they've done something wrong, or it's just not going to work out. But you just need to keep working at it. And I guess what we're saying here is, don't rely on motivation to get you through that messy middle. Like, rely on yourself, rely on the work that you can do to go through these 5 different solutions that we've outlined. And you'll be able to get yourself through that and into a nice consistent habit that you'll be really grateful for. And that's just down to you. That's down to the work that you've done. So you come out the other end not only being consistent with something, taking care of your health and fitness, but also backing yourself and trusting yourself and finding out just what you're capable of. And I think that's really powerful. Far more powerful than motivation. because that, as Sai says, that will wax and wane, and you know that you can just rely on yourself. Yeah?
Don't need no man.
What? Okay. What a note to end on. I hope you guys have found this useful. We'll see you in the next podcast with a few updates, and maybe we do a Strongman update next podcast. We'll see how much happens in the next 2 weeks. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.